So here's another example. In response to the Great Depression, Franklin D. Roosevelt enacted many New Deal policies. One such policy was the enactment of the National Recovery Administration, abbreviated NRA, which required business to agree to pay wages and prices within their particular industry. The thought was this would encourage higher wages among the working class, which would thereby spur consumption. In a Gallup survey conducted in 1933 of 2,025 adult Americans, 55% thought that wages paid to workers in an industry were too low. Construct a 90% confidence interval for the proportion of all adult Americans who thought that wages paid to workers in industry were too low. What is the sample proportion? Well, this time we had a survey of 2,025 Americans, and this percentage thought that wages paid were too high. So that percentage, if we turn it into a decimal, is our p hat. So 55% or 0.55 is our p hat. So how many adult Americans that were surveyed thought wages paid to workers in industry were too low? Well, remember, we have p hat equals x over n. So in this case, we have 0.55 equals x is the number of people who thought it was too low. And we don't know what that number is. So we put x as a variable over, we do know that 2,025 adults were surveyed. So to solve this, we multiply both sides of the equation by 2025. And that means that x equals, when we do it on the left-hand side, those numbers cancel each other, the 2025s cancel each other out. And on the right-hand side, we are left with 1,114 people. And actually, we got 1,113.75, but that rounds to 1,114 people. So our answer is 1,114 adult Americans. Okay, let's verify the requirements. Is the variable qualitative with only two possible outcomes? Well, it's definitely qualitative. Either you believe workers are paid too little or you don't. And so there are only two possible outcomes also. Can we assume, or is the sample given to be a simple random sample? Well, it says a Gallup survey. And, gosh, that should be a U there. Anyway, Gallup is one of the most respected and oldest polling institutions. So we would say that, yeah, we would probably think that that's a simple random sample. Okay, let's verify that our n times p hat times 1 minus p hat is big enough. So remember, this is our normality requirement. So n is 2,025. P hat was 0.55. And so then 1 minus p hat is 1 minus 0.55. When we calculate that, we end up with 501 0.2 approximately. I rounded to 1 decimal place. That number is greater than 10, so yes, that requirement is met. And is the sample size less than 5% of the population size? Again, I would say yes. I don't know what the population of the US was in 1933, but 2025 is a very small number compared to that. So let's find the confidence interval estimate. So we use one prop, z int. Our x is going to be 1,114. And I should say something about x, because we're talking about a number of individuals. It should always be a whole number. N is our sample size, which is 2025. And our confidence level is, I believe we're supposed to construct a 90%. So 0.90. If we put that in the calculator, so let's get our calculator here. We have stat tests, option A, X is 1,114, N is 2025, and the confidence level is 0.90, and calculate. So we get 0.532 to 0.568. So 0.532 to 0.568. And if we wrote that in interval, as an inequality, it would be 0.532 is less than the population proportion, which is less than 0.568. So to interpret that confidence interval, we are 90% confident that the proportion of adult Americans who thought that wages paid to workers in industry was too low was between 0.532 and 0.568. We'll end this video here, and in the next video we'll talk about how we decide how many people we actually need to survey.